Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 247 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Matty Mullins from Memphis, Mayfire, I want to remind you about the next Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch with the Stone Temple Posers at City Winery, Boston, coming up on Saturday, March 22nd. Doors open at 11. The Unplugged set from Stone Temple Pilots starts at noon, performed by the Stone Temple Posers. Tickets are available now. Get the link and more details in the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Matty Mullins is the lead vocalist from Memphis Mayfire and Anne Berlin. Memphis Mayfire getting ready to release their new album Shapeshifter on March 28th, and they're heading out on the Shapeshifter Tour with a stop at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts on May 10th. Those tickets are on sale now. If you want the link to see Memphis Mayfire at the Palladium in May, check the show notes of this episode. Allow me to introduce you to Matty Mullins from Memphis Mayfire. What's up, Matty? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
The first thing I got to talk about is how badass, I'm assuming this is your home studio?
Yeah, this is the home studio.
Nice
Thank you.
Setup.
Thank you. Yeah, I spend a lot of time up here, so got to make it special.
It's one of the things that I love about being able to do interviews on Zoom. Doing radio for so long, every time I talk to somebody, it was on the phone. Now I get to see where you live and how you decorate your stuff.
Yeah, well, I will say the wife would not be happy if the rest of the rooms in the house looked like this, so they don't. But this is my little creative space that is so important. And right outside of the studio, I built out a vocal booth that is state of the art. It is a place that I spend a lot of time in, and I wasn't going to settle on making it anything other than very special. So this is a special place to me.
You're part of the rock and metal invasion of Nashville, right?
Yes, I am.
It's unbelievable to me how much rock and metal not only is getting made in Nashville, but how many bands live in and around the area now.
Yeah, for sure. And, Brittany and I were pretty early to the game. We moved here over 11 years ago and did not move here for music at all. When I was really young, I have an older sister that's kind of like a second mother to me. And she came here to finish her master's. So I would visit her when I was just a kid and fell in love with Tennessee. We decided, my wife and I, that when we bought our first home, that it would be in Tennessee. So we were living in Seattle and decided it was time and just started looking at houses. It came down here, not thinking that this was going to be some music related thing. And then just over the years, it has become that we do a lot of writing and all of our recording here, So, yeah.
That's definitely a climate shift going from Seattle to Nashville.
Yeah, it's huge. Brittany and I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. We're from Spokane, Washington, but then we moved to Dallas when the band got started. And then from Dallas to Atlanta and Atlanta to Seattle. So we had experienced a whole lot and decided that we wanted to end up in the South. We like the four seasons here and we, enjoy the food and the culture. It's all great. And so we knew we were going to end up here. We just didn't know when. And it was definitely a shock from going from Seattle to here for sure.
Well, don't say four seasons now as I sit in the Northeast and we watch this Arctic blast with like 1 inch of snow paralyze these cities down south. That's not really winter. Okay, Matty?
It's not. I mean, you guys have it worse. We will admit that all day long. But yeah, I mean, we do at least get some snow. We get to at least experience it. That's important to me. You know, we don't want to live anywhere where we're missing out on any of the seasons. They all make you thankful for the others, you know?
It always made me curious, like the idea of going surfing on Christmas, you know, like decorating a palm tree for the holidays. Like my brain can't wrap itself around that idea that it would be warm at that time of year. It's weird.
Yes, it's strange. And I fully understand. My wife and I actually did Christmas in Hawaii this year. And so, or I guess last year. So it is definitely a different experience. And I would say I almost feel like I didn't do Christmas.
Coconuts and palm trees is not Christmas to you?
It's not, especially where I grew up. You know, if you grew up in Florida, I'm sure that just is Christmas, right? But to me, growing up in Spokane, Washington, we had 8 months out of the year with snow, you know, and so it was very much a white Christmas. And now going to Hawaii, I think that will probably be the last time that we do that. It's beautiful. But just that time of year and needing some sort of Christmassy environment, that was not it. It was 85 degrees and we were sitting on the beach. So
I just talked to Miles Kennedy, who's also from Spokane. And I just talked to Tim Montana because they're touring together. And Tim Montana was talking about that kind of region of the country. And that if you're from that part of the country, it's like this unspoken understanding, kind of the same way that New Englanders are, that like you grow up in a certain region of the country and you just have to look at somebody and kind of give them the nod, like, you know.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, a lot of the things about my personality that some of my friends that aren't from there, like maybe don't understand, you know, being like very direct and even the way that I say certain words and things like that. In Spokane, like you would never even get a second glance for any of those things. It's very normal. But to somebody who's not from there, they're like, whoa, like, are you angry? I'm like, no, not at all. I was just saying something, right? So yeah, I definitely understand the unspoken thing.
That's how Bostonians are too. Everybody thinks we're mad all the time, and we're not. We're just direct.
Yep.
And if we
just direct,
and if we like you, then we're going to bust your balls. And so if we're not busting your balls, that should bring you pause.
Yep. Yeah. You got to just understand that it all comes with the territory. And I do know it and I do respect it.
It sounds like you and I have a very similar setup with our families. My sister just got her master's degree this year. And so when you look at us, it's like she's the brains and then I'm the one with the concert tickets.
Yeah. 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 That sounds about right.
Not saying that I don't have brains, but it's kind of hard to have that conversation like around the holidays. Like, what did you do? Well, I'm trying to cure cancer in kids. What did you do? I gave away tickets to see Disturbed. No disrespect to Disturbed, but it's just not the same.
You know, I will argue that people at a Disturbed concert or any concert for that matter, oftentimes have really spiritual experiences, and going somewhere like a rock concert, being a fan of rock music, can really put you in a headspace of feeling like you're not alone and that you're not somebody that is an outcast, but rather you belong and that you are somebody that other people do understand. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think the work you do is really, really important.
I call it the land of misfit toys. And I think it's why COVID was so hard for so many people, because you walk in the doors of that show.
Yep.
And everything else gets left behind. Everyone belongs. Everyone knows the words. And there's such a huge discussion about mental health now. And if you had told people 20 years ago that rock and metal would be leading the charge when it comes to the discussion about mental health and addiction, people would have been like, yeah, okay. But that's what's happening.
That is undeniably the case.
I don't want to call it refreshing, but it seems like it takes that kind of rock and metal mentality to be so open and honest and vulnerable. I just talked to Eric Bass from Shinedown about this recently and really complimented him on how open he's been with his own struggles. And I don't know what it is about the rock and metal community, but more so than anyone else, I think the strides in mental health have just taken on a whole new realm in the last decade plus. And it's because the bands are the ones that are telling the fans, like, nope, we're in this with you. And nobody else has been able to make that ground.
Yeah. I mean, even before it was so widely discussed, I think that people gravitated to rock music for topics, song topics, and lyrics that spoke to something in them that they didn't feel like they could talk about publicly or that they could speak with someone else about. And it's always been a format of music that people go to not feel alone in what it is that they are feeling. That's what's so beautiful about rock and metal, is that it is an aggressive format where aggressive things can be discussed and not seen in a matter of destruction, but rather something that can be uplifting. You can get from start to finish a song that is nothing but sounding just purely angry and feel somehow like you are seeing that you got to release something that you cannot release in other scenarios in life or any other genres of music. And so it really is truly a beautiful thing.
It's hard to pigeonhole it as weakness too. When
there's not an ounce of that.
Exactly.
Well, not an ounce of that. I mean, you can, and even the, people in rock and metal, the musicians, what you would expect them to be, versus sitting down and having a conversation and maybe even like shedding some tears over some really deep conversations with people who wear giant crazy costumes and all of this kind of thing. It's like, at the end of the day, I have seen more inclusion and more forward thinking, more love and acceptance from people in this genre of music than I have any other.
And I think that directly correlates to the longevity of career that's possible in rock and metal and the loyalty of the fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's just so many other genres of music where you get a hit song on the radio and then you tour for 6 months and then nobody recognizes you at the grocery store. Meanwhile, you got the guys from the Stones that are what, like 70 years in as a band by now, or the Scorpions celebrating their 60th anniversary this year. Yep. I don't think anybody would have thought going into it that longevity would have even been possible. But it is.
Yeah. And for a genre of music that is so undeniably hard on your body, the guys that are doing it, and not only just doing it, but some of them doing it the best they ever have. Papa Roach, right? Writing the best music they ever have, performing at the highest level that they ever have, and touring just as much as they ever have. That is insane and so inspiring to watch.
I just talked to Jerry Horton recently, and I pointed out to him that celebrating your 25th anniversary brings two things. One, qualification for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and also that Infest and Last Resort this year is technically considered classic rock.
Oh my gosh.
And that's exactly what he did. He put his head down and he was like, wait, why did you tell me that?
That's crazy and somehow very offensive.
And it's not just him. It's Disturbed. It's Linkin Park. When you really think about it, but I said to him, when you look out in the crowd now, you're seeing generations of fans.
Yep.
So the music you grew up listening to that in your head is classic rock, and he was like, just stop talking. I can't even think about it.
You know what, though? At the same time, Jerry somehow I think he actually has Benjamin Button's disease. If you look at band promos from Infest and then you see him now, even in person, not a doctored photo, in person, he looks the best and youngest he ever has. That's super annoying.
That's how Jacoby is too.
And Jacoby is the thinnest, best shape, like just looks full of life. It's so crazy to see that in real life and just be like, wow, I'm so impressed by that band. Their music career and them just as human beings is like real deal Benjamin Buttons. They are aging backwards.
Well,
it's crazy.
I'll tell you what it is. It's happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And health. Those guys are focused on their health in this season of their life, especially. Happiness, health, mental health, and physical health, are important to them. And I know that just from being friends with them. It's very cool.
I talked to Jerry about that longevity of career with the band and the ups and downs. And I'm curious when it comes to Memphis Mayfire, we talked about giving each other grace in the band, the time to kind of tackle the things you need to tackle outside of the band so that you can be part of the band in the best and most healthy way for yourself. Can you talk about the inner workings of the band with you guys and giving each other that grace?
Yeah, it's so true. And especially from outside voices, you get a lot of like, if we do more, if we do more, if we do more. And it's really not the responsibility of the people that work for a band to be able to identify when it is that somebody needs a break or is about to hit a breaking point. It's up to the band members themselves for recognizing that and admitting that and saying, hey guys, I need to take a step back. I need to breathe for a minute. And then the other guys in the band who are ultimately family, right? To look and see that as maybe there is a financial opportunity that we're about to lose, but we do not see that as valuable as your health and mental health and ultimately overall well-being, because when somebody is at their best, they can give 100%, but you just keep taking and taking and taking from somebody and they get depleted to the point where they don't have anything left to offer. So to be in a band full of guys that says, hey, I recognize and I value that while it might not be convenient all the time, sometimes a step back or a breather or just saying like, listen, I need space, I need time. That's valuable. And every human being at some point in time is going to get to the point where they do need that.
I think for fans, I think more so now with social media, they understand. But I think as a fan, your perception of being in the studio, writing, recording, going out on the road, especially, and touring, you guys come to my town. It's party night. I've been waiting for this for months. But the rigors of touring, Sammy Hagar just talked about it, about, telling his management now that he doesn't think he can do big tours anymore and that he might just focus on doing residencies in Vegas because he thinks that's the only way he's going to be able to extend years onto his career because touring is so hard. And so we see it like, oh, you don't want to tour for a while? Why don't, come on, it's a party. But the idea of how long you're away from your family and your house that you love and your pets and your kids and that personal life that recharges you. I think part of this mental health discussion that rock and metal has had has kind of shown fans more recently, like, wow, it's a lot harder than we ever thought it was.
Yep. And it is, and it's almost like, you wish people understood, but you can never expect somebody to understand until they've been in that position. And we know that the majority of our fans will not ever be in the position of touring full time. It's okay that they don't understand everything, but I do love to see when fans are supportive of being let down. When Noah from Bad Omens decided to take off a big chunk of touring that was already planned and booked and announced and promoted to say, hey, I need to focus on me. I'm experiencing extreme burnout. I had so much respect for him to admit that and to see that and need to take a step, a really vital one that can be detrimental to, finances and the band's success and everything. Like, it's not that you're not thinking about all those things. It's that you're thinking about, how can I be available and able to do these things in the future if I just keep killing myself over and over again? The human body and the brain being part of the body needs rest to recover. We need rest. And touring is not an environment of rest.
No.
It almost seems impossible for it to be, unless you're at a level where you can take every other day off and be in a 5-star hotel and be somewhere quiet and get sleep. But even then, that's not a comfort zone. That's away from the home and the repetition and the things that you need in your life that all add up to rest. And so it's really tough. And I don't I always have all the grace in the world for anybody that says I need to take a minute, and for Sammy to say that, and to even give an option of like, I think I could do Vegas residencies. I mean, that's awesome because he doesn't even have to do that, but just to say like, here's a way that I can keep going for longer and something that seems sustainable. That's honestly what that is. It's wisdom.
Yeah. And I mean, for somebody like me, right, just going away for the weekend, being away from my mattress and my pillow, as something so stupid, you get home and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And for somebody
it's not stupid. You spend so much of your life in bed, and it's vital. It's vital to the human experience to have good sleep and rest in general. And so it might seem stupid. It's just really not. It's not. And it's so important. And just focusing on being the best version of yourself is really the only way that you can be what other people expect you to be.
Do you have a hard time getting used to sleeping back in bed when you get off the road and not sleeping on the bus?
Yeah. So years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, my wife and I bought a vibrating bed. And that sounds funny, right? or like TMI.
Hey, this is a no judgment zone, Matty.
Specifically because when you turn it on, it feels like a moving bus. And when you get into the habit of sleeping in a moving vehicle, getting home and sleeping in something still and even like a quiet room can feel deafening. It is so jarring to go from one to the other. So yeah, I mean, this bed, it has 3 levels of vibrating. We go to the highest level one. She's so gracious that she'll allow me to sleep that way. But it's literally just like, and it feels like bus tires on a freeway. And it's been a huge saving grace for me. So fellow musicians out there, as funny as that sounds, we're not talking about being kinky here. We're talking about actually being able to sleep.
Hey, you can do both. It's fine.
It's there for that too. But really at the end of the day, like that has been a huge saving grace for me. All jokes aside.
I could have saved you some money because you could have just gotten a couple of pugs because they snore so loud that they vibrate the bed too, because that's what I have. It's weird to sleep without snoring pugs in the room for me now.
That's so right. What are their names?
Wednesday and Friday.
Oh my gosh. So cool.
They have
we've
their
got a
own
couple dogs as well.
Instagram now. They're very Instagram famous now. So
hey, I'll have to follow them. Yeah, my dogs are on Instagram and everything as well. We're very about that life.
Well, that's going to bring me to the geezer question. That's what we call it on the show. Named after Geezer Butler, who a while back came on the show. We talked about, all of his animal volunteer work that he does and the fundraising. And he told me that he has 13 cats and 5 dogs. And when that's what I said. And when I asked him how he keeps them all straight and how do you come up with names for all of them, he told me that he names them all after gangster rappers and then just started rattling off the name of every hip hop star you can think of.
That's awesome.
After I picked myself up off the floor from laughing at the idea that Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath knows that much about hip hop.
That's so cool.
That has become the geezer question. So now you have to tell me about your pets because there has never been an unentertaining answer to that question.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my wife and I, we had never planned to have children, but we also are unable to have children. And so because of that, like our dogs are our life. And I mean like our entire life. We had a Yorkie for 15 years and his name was Maverick. Obviously named after the fighter pilot Top Gun. And I've always, before I even had really discovered the idea of music being a career, when I was really young, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So, fighter pilot movies were a huge deal to me. And I had like an elephant mask that I would pretend was like an oxygen part of a helmet. And I'd put on a helmet and I'd get like a fork and a spoon and act like those were my controls and the throttles in a jet. And I would watch like Iron Eagle and Top Gun in these movies where I would, pretend that I was a fighter pilot. So Maverick was our first, and he was the love of our life, and he passed away at 15. And then we got another dog and we named him Goose.
Yes.
And so now we're working our way through all the fighter pilots from these movies that I love so much. So after Goose, we decided Goose needed a brother, and so we got Chappie, and Chappie is a pilot from the movie Iron Eagle. So naturally, our next dog will be Doug Masters from that same movie. So yeah, we had Maverick, and now we have Goose and Chappie, and Goose is a cockapoo, and he's about 20 pounds. Chappie is a cavapoo, and he is 25 pounds. And I might be able to show you if I can move the camera here.
I love that you have a dog bed in your studio, because I do too.
Oh yeah. So that's Chappie over in that corner, and then that's Goose. You can see both of them kind of sleeping in the corner, and they've got the names on their beds.
I was gonna say, like, how fancy that they sleep in their own beds. Pugs, it doesn't matter how small the bed, they need to be in there together.
Yeah.
So it's just like this pug pile of dogs and snoring and snot, and it's glorious.
I love pugs. That's so awesome. Yeah.
Did you ever get to go up in a fighter jet?
No, I haven't had that opportunity. I've had people extend kind of like the possibility of that, but it hasn't happened yet. And I do hope it happens someday. I think I'm going to have to maybe get into slightly better shape to handle that. Cause I know there's some pretty rigorous training, but it would be a dream come true for real. F-16 specifically, the F-16 is my favorite jet.
I got to do that, and I am telling you,
up.
Yeah. I did an hour in an F-15 Eagle. And
wow.
Yeah. I'm telling you, do not ever pass up if you get a chance to do it, it will be the greatest thing you've ever done in your life.
Was it hard on your body?
Yeah. 9 Gs
oh my gosh.
was 685 miles an hour and 9 Gs. That's what it takes to shut me up, just in case you were wondering. Because I passed out from it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have it passed out or gotten close, but that's insane. Wow. Yeah, I would never pass it up. I would just want to know a whole lot about the pilot.
Yeah, well, you go through. I did it and went through the training right before the Miracle on the Hudson.
Oh, okay.
And so I had to go through all this bird strike training. And before Sully Sullenberger, like, the bird strike idea, like, I think for civilians wasn't really something that was like top of mind the way that it is now because of that.
Sure.
And so I was just like, in hours of simulator training, and they're talking about bird strikes and how the DJ could save the life of the fighter pilot if the pilot got knocked out because of a bird strike. And then the Miracle on the Hudson happened, and we were like, oh my God, like, bird strikes are really dangerous. Like, that's a thing.
Oh yeah. So that's crazy that you got to do that. What Air Force base did you fly out of, or where was that?
In Western Massachusetts at Barnes. I flew with the Mass Air National Guard. It was amazing. The best, like, one
amazing.
of the best things I've ever done in my life. So I am telling you, I don't care what you have to do. I don't care how far you have to travel.
Yeah.
If you ever get, it's like that Ghostbusters quote, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Yeah.
If anyone ever asks you to go in a jet, drop everything.
Okay.
And do it. It's amazing.
All right. Well, I was already convinced, and now I'm ultra convinced. I'm so down. That's amazing. That's so cool that you got to do that.
You guys are getting ready to release this new album, Shapeshifter, March 28th. And you're actually going to be in Massachusetts at the Palladium on May 10th on the Shapeshifter Tour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll be there. That's one of my favorite venues in the world.
The Palladium is one of those kind of chapels of metal.
Truly. It truly is.
Like, every hard rock and metal band at some point in their career has gone through the Worcester Palladium.
It's truly iconic. I mean, really, really iconic. And we've been fortunate enough to play there, a lot. And I cannot wait. I sing for another band called Anne Berlin as well. And we just finished an entire tour at the Palladium, which was really cool. And so I just, I'm really looking forward to that show. There's like some highlight shows in my mind of like, I just know this is going to be an epic night. That's one of them.
Well, definitely the rock and metal scene in the Northeast, like the New England metal scene, is so passionate. I just talked to Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage about it, that there's just something about this region of the country. They just love their freaking metal. It's
strong. It is a super, super strong metal culture. And has always been supportive to everything that we've done. And I'm very thankful for that part of the country. I really am.
You talk about being out on the road with Anne Berlin. You've released solo projects, obviously writing songs with Memphis Mayfire. As someone that has zero musical ability and even less songwriting ability, the process of it, the creative process, is super fascinating for me. So when you're talking about writing for different projects, how are you deciding, oh, that's a Memphis song, oh, that's an Anne Berlin thing, this is going to go on my solo record? Is it who you're writing with at the time? How does that work?
I think it's all a mindset, and my solo stuff, which I don't have an opportunity to do much of at all anymore. It's just too busy. Is wildly different. My time with Anne Berlin is very fueled by me being such a big fan of that band growing up. I've always loved Anne Berlin. So sitting down to write for them, I get to get back into the mindset of, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old me that was just fascinated by those albums and wanting to recreate something special like that. For Memphis, when I sit down to write for Memphis, I'm very much in the Memphis mindset. And I think that it's not that I'm trying to be two different versions of myself. It's that I'm fully me and just focused on the task at hand. And so I think that there is lyrical content, life experiences, and things that cater themselves more to an Anne Berlin song and things that cater themselves more to a Memphis song. And so if anything, I just feel lucky that I get two outlets that are wildly different, to be able to share different life experiences and things with, because not everybody has that opportunity.
How does it work? Is it riff first, melody first, lyric first? What comes first for you?
As long as Memphis has ever been a band, Kellen has always written bass, drums, guitar, fully finished instrumentals, and delivered them to me to write vocals over. And then once vocals are done, then we will chop up the instrumental a little bit to cater to the vocal. But ultimately, Memphis Mayfire has always started with music first.
It's kind of like how Tool does music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which to me is so... I don't even know how to explain it, because you're getting delivered this fully formed thing, and now you're trying to work lyrics into that melody that's kind of already there, as opposed to like hashing it all out in a room, which I think is the old way bands used to do it before file sharing and technology.
Of course. Yeah. If anything, I feel fortunate because Kellen is a movie enthusiast. He doesn't listen to a lot of music, but watches a lot of film and is very heavily inspired by soundtracks. And so I get, before I even decide what a song is going to be about, I get delivered something that is so packed full of emotion, and just rich with kind of cinematic value that I almost hear and can feel a concept in a song the first time I listen through, even if he didn't have any intention of communicating that, right? And so it's very cool to be able to listen to an instrumental and say, this is how this makes me feel. Now I'll gather the lyric and I'll cater to this.
So when you hear it the first time, because I've had conversations about like synesthesia and how different people process sound.
Uh-huh.
Do you get visuals? Do you see the words? When he hands you that music, what cinematically you're getting inspired, but what are you seeing when you hear it?
Yeah, it's almost like you can see, hear, feel, taste the feeling in which the song, of what the song will become and what you're wanting to translate and communicate to the audience. It's not that I necessarily see some, detailed music video or anything like that, but it is the spirit of the song and what it will communicate is almost instantly apparent to me. And that definitely is an inspiring feeling. It's a cool starting point.
You guys are not only doing your headlining tour, but you're playing some massive festivals like Sonic Temple. For a long time, I think Europe ruled when it came to these big giant festivals. And North America, and especially the United States now, has got these really iconic festivals.
Yeah.
What is your experience like playing those festivals? Because you get to be a performer and a fan.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, I think we have a fortunate perspective of being a band that has played some very not big and professional festivals. So walking into any of those bigger, just really well-oiled machines of festivals is such a cool feeling. I mean, it takes so many people and so much prep and such a detailed process to pull those things off. It's really fascinating to just watch it happen. And obviously, you look at the lineup of any of these festivals that you get to be a part of, and you're really thinking like, all right, how can I put on the absolute best show of my career? And then how can I get away from the stage as fast as possible to go catch these other bands? Because I have this pass that somehow belongs to me, is going to allow me to get on stage and watch this band. It's the craziest thing.
It's like that Wayne's World thing at the Alice Cooper show. We're just like, I want to show everyone my laminates.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's the coolest thing ever. So you get to see those lineups and you're just like, wow, to even have a band that is coupled with some of the other bands on these flyers. It's full circle kind of crazy. A crazy feeling. So yeah, definitely a cool thing.
It doesn't matter how big or how successful a band is. There is always a moment for that band or a member of that band where they get stopped in their tracks and they're like, oh my God, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
So who was it? What band did you get to meet? What musician did you get to meet? What room were you in that stopped you in your tracks and you were like, how the hell did I end up right here, right now?
I mean, honestly, like I have some stories that would probably be like unexpected. I remember our van breaking down in Buffalo, New York at a gas station in a blizzard. And we were like, what are we going to do? And we start looking up places that are serving food late. And we end up at this bar called The Pink. Because they have a steak sandwich that's really popular, ribeye sandwich. And we go to The Pink and Keith Buckley is DJing and there's 6 people in there, right? And literally Keith Buckley got a beer in his hand and he's DJing, just playing music that he likes. And we're sitting there, us and 6 other people listening to him DJ, eating these incredible steak sandwiches. I can't even describe how good they are. And just being blown away. Like I was really nervous to meet him. I think that Keith Buckley is one of the best lyricists and frontmen of our time. And so to see that and have it be so just nonchalant, it was the craziest thing of all time. When we played Soundwave in Australia, the lineup, the headliners were Linkin Park. And this was when Chester was alive. Linkin Park and Metallica. And I remember walking by James and him like literally smiling and just waving at me like, what's up, man? And I was just like, like it's those kind of things, those moments that he's such a humble and down to earth dude and such a cool guy. But the majority of the world will never have that experience of just walking by him backstage and seeing him as the human that he is, And so, yeah, it's, I've had a handful of those. They're kind of all over the place, but very cool for sure.
It's funny that you'll always remember an amazing meal in a little hole in the wall place just because the food is so good. So if I were going to come to Nashville, where are you taking me for lunch?
Okay, so like on the touristy side of things, it is really important that you go to Hattie B's and get the hot chicken. Hattie B's or Prince's. Some people say that Prince's was the originator of Nashville hot chicken, but Hattie B's is really popular. There's always a line around the door, or out the door and around the corner. So that's a good one. And then just like on like me as a local, that that people wouldn't necessarily. I would say Rose Pepper in East Nashville. If you're a margarita person, that's the best margarita in Nashville.
Now you're talking my language, Matty.
Yeah. And it is just like really great food. It's a local spot that, people in East Nashville that live there they go and eat at. So I would recommend that. And there's a handful of like taco trucks and things that are just really special. Yeah, but let's just stick with those two though. Go to Hattie B's, get the hot chicken. You have to do it. I strongly recommend not going to the hottest level because it is not a joke. It is absolutely not a joke.
I do not have that tolerance.
Yeah, this would be a bad week for you, I'm sure. So stick with the mild, but it's great. It's good quality chicken.
Fans have had a chance to hear a bunch of songs off of Shapeshifter already, but the rest of the album that we haven't heard, or for fans or people that haven't heard of Memphis Mayfire before that are listening, what can we expect from this new album?
We are so proud of this body of work. We learned a lot during the making of our last record, which was called Remade in Misery. We wrote and recorded that during the pandemic. And because it was during the pandemic, we had nothing but the music to focus on. We didn't have any touring opportunities or any in-person interviews or anything, right? It was all about the music. And that really kind of put us back in our, the mindset of when we first started of like, we don't have any success. We don't have any opportunity. All we have is this opportunity to write a record and hope that we can make the best record possible. And so, what we did and what we learned during that record, we had also brought to the table with this, where we said, we're going to shut everything out, all the voices, and we're just going to sit down and make the absolute best record that we can make. And when we do that and we see every single song as an opportunity to make a single, not just one of the songs on this album, that's what it inspires us and encourages us to release music the way that we do now, which is very much a lot of the songs as singles before the record comes out. But we are so proud of this album as a body of work. And even though a lot of the singles are already out, if you listened to those and then now you go and you listen to the album as a whole, start to finish, I really do think you'll experience it in a different way. And if you're just learning about Memphis Mayfire, our last record, Remade in Misery, we're really proud of that. And this album, Shapeshifter, we really do believe is a step up and a step in the right direction for us as a band. We're really excited about it and going to see where it takes us.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you the songwriting question. I ask every songwriter that comes on the show the same question. It doesn't matter the genre of music, the artist, the era. Give me a song that you think is so perfectly crafted that you wish you wrote it. The perfect example of songwriting. And then you got to tell me why.
I'll tell you this. I love Atreyu. We're going to go to Australia with them this year and do a co-headliner over there with them. And we've done a co-headliner with them in America, and we've supported them in America. We've done a lot with them. I think that they are another example, like I was saying about Papa Roach earlier, of a band that is writing currently the best music of their career right now in their career. And they wrote a song called Gone, which is one of their newer songs. The first time I heard that song, it was such a feeling of like, this is really fresh. And it's also taking me back to everything that made me love this genre of music. It's such a beautiful mixture of a throwback and a current, very modern song. I was so like, I couldn't help but just feel jealous. I was like, I want to write a song like this, or this exact song actually. So that's just the first thing that came to mind, and they deserve the credit for that. I think that is a perfectly written song for the band that they are and what they do. A band that really pioneered so much of the genre that they're a part of, and now currently is still killing it. I wish I wrote that song Gone by Atreyu.
Songwriters are always going to listen to a song a little differently than just a regular music fan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in a cynical way, usually.
Well, Shapeshifter comes out March 28th. You're going to be at the Palladium in Worcester on May 10th. I've got the link to the show so you can get your tickets in the show notes of this episode. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you for letting me meet the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was an honor, and I hope we get to do a lot more of these in the future.
Well, hopefully I'll see you at the Palladium, and congratulations on the new album.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you there.
There he is, Matty Mullins from Memphis Mayfire. The new album Shapeshifter comes out on March 28th. The Shapeshifter Tour is on the road this spring with a stop at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts on May 10th. Those tickets are on sale now. Check the link in the show notes of this episode to get them. While you're there, you can also find the link for this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the songs and artists that we referenced in the interview. You'll also find all of Matty's links and the links from Memphis Mayfire, and of course, all the Mistress Carrie links. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and comment on the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the Sit Rep. The Situation Report breaks down all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And you can always find me on the radio, including my latest station, Laser 99.3 and 98.5 in Springfield, Mass. Get the links to all of that and more at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.